Hello everyone, I'm MeNoHaxor. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to ward effectively as a support to contest objectives like Dragon and Baron. Having proper vision can have a huge impact on how your team and the enemy team positions in a teamfight and approaches an objective. This first example is going to show a teamfight near the Dragon Pit. I'll first explain how I'm approaching the warding situation from my team's perspective about a minute before the Dragon starts. Before a recall, I see that the Dragon timer is counting down and we're gonna start contesting the Dragon soon. Right before a recall, I decided to place a couple wards and then go ahead and recall. The first ward I'm gonna talk about is this pink ward right over here. This pink ward is really good because it's a very nice defensive ward to place on blue side. It prevents the red side from seeing our approach through this slope, and this is definitely the most common spot for blue side to walk through if they're gonna go to the Dragon. So having this pink ward is really good for denying that. The second two words I want to talk about is this word in this bush and this word right over the cliff. I put this word right before a recall because for a red side, if they're coming from mid lane, they're most likely going to walk through this path down this bush into the Dragon Pit. So having one ward over the wall and one ward in this bush is really nice so that you can see the complete path of movement from mid lane to the Dragon Pit. Going back to where I'm positioned, they're going to try to pick me off right now. Leona's going to try to ult and engage on me, but luckily I get a nice tornado off and my team decides to peel back from me. As you're retreating, we can slowly start moving up our vision because we have the superior poke with Ezreal. They cleared my wards on this top area, but I'm going to once again replant my vision, particularly in this bush. I care a lot more about this bush over this wall over here because we know that they all started moving across to the right side of the Dragon Pit. So having just this ward is good enough to see the enemy team walking down this path if they choose to do so. I also left one ward in this bush behind us, just in case someone's going to try to flank from the other side. With that in mind, we know that most of the enemy team is pushed over to this upper area, where they have to walk through this choke point to get to us. To make sure that it deny vision even further, I'm even going to leave a pink ward right here. This pink ward is really nice because it also checks to see if there's a ward in front of Dragon, and there was one, so we can clear that. Now that we have so many wards covering this entire Dragon side area, we now know that the entire enemy team is completely blocked in this choke point. This is an excellent time to fight now, given that we have a Lissandra who's really good at fighting in small corridors, and we have a lot of ways to control the area around us with champions like Janna and Lee Sin ultimates. The fight's now starting, and now they're all stuck in this choke point for us. This is really nice because most of the enemy team is forced to deal with Lissandra, while the rest of our team is allowed to freely do damage and kite around. With all this superior vision, we're slowly able to kite the enemy team around and slowly win this team fight. I get another really nice tornado off here, and now we're pretty much free to chase the enemy team down south, where they have nowhere else to retreat, knowing that we have the rest of the area warded. This is a pretty easy cleanup, and we win this team fight very securely with an ace, and we secure the Dragon for our team. Now, let's go ahead and re-watch the team fight again, but now from the enemy perspective. As you can see, the enemy team is now walking up towards the Dragon. Right now their vision is not super good. They don't have any ward in this bush, and they only have one ward at our Wraith camp. Otherwise, they have a pink here, and they at least took the Scuttle Crab for a little bit more vision. They also have one ward inside the Dragon Pit. Their ward coverage is alright, but they really lack coverage, especially in this bush right here. They really need vision here because they know that, especially from blue side, we're either going to come from this ramp or from this bush. So someone really should put a ward here. As we're dancing around, they do decide to jump me, but look how difficult it is for them to decide whether to engage on me. They don't really know where any of our team is, and they choose a really bad fight where they have to disengage and start retreating. As you can see, they're slowly in a position where they have to back off. They try to use sweepers to get back, but they don't really try to cover any other wards as they're retreating. Now looking at the situation again, you can see their lack of vision is really apparent. The only vision that they really have on us is taking the Scuttle Crab. After I kill this ward in the Dragon Pit, they have no more vision of us outside of us standing near the scuttle. Now imagine how hard it is to fight right here in the Dragon Pit, when they can't really see where we're positioning, and if we choose to retreat in the top left or down here in the bottom right, it's going to be super difficult for them to even try to see where we're flanking or where we're kiting. In particular, note how on this left hand side here, Release and Ezreal are free to stay in the very left of this fight. You can just see this Mordekaiser really wants to jump on this Ezreal, but he's not really able to do so, and if he had vision, he probably could use Flash and kill the Ezreal to secure their team to fight. As you can see, the enemy team did not have very good vision, and that definitely cost them a lot of positioning errors in this fight. One last point I wanted to make is my liberal use of pink wards throughout this dragon contest. I first put my pink ward near the bush at the dragon pit to make sure that they can't see us approaching. Then I'm okay with moving my pink ward up into the dragon pit to make sure I further deny vision around the area. I don't think a lot of support players are so willing to drop their pink wards and kill a pink ward that already is on the map, but I think it's really important to be okay with doing so, especially if you need to contest an objective. Saving the extra 75 gold is usually not worth it, and I think it's much better to deny vision if it means you guys can secure an objective and a teamfight win. Now let's take a look at our second game, where I properly set a vision around Baron to help our team find picks and eventually take the Baron. In this game, I'm playing as Blitzcrank, and we're looking to get vision around Baron since it's past the 20-minute mark. We already have a pink ward in this bush right here, placed by my teammate. This bush is especially important around Baron because you want to be able to see if the enemy team is going to rotate from mid lane to the Baron pit quickly, and this is the fastest way to do so, right through this bush right here. I also had one ward placed over the wall before this fight. This ward is always really nice to have because it allows you to see the blue team approaching from mid lane up this path or from their jungle up into the Baron pit. As I'm trying to establish vision for my team, I see that there's a pink here, so I'm going to start clearing it. As a support, even if you're someone that can run relatively quickly like Blitzcrank, you still want to make sure that you see members of the enemy team before you start clearing pinks, just in case you get picked off. In this case, I know I'm very safe to do so because I see the Sejuani, Talia, and Soraka mid lane, which probably means that most of the rest of the team is there. So I know I can clear this ward very safely. As I'm coming back to help Katarina play safely and defend our turret, I'm making sure to see where they're placing wards and trying to clear as much vision as possible so that I can look for more picks. I see Soraka placed one ward in the middle lane, which I'm going to sweep, and I also see her place one ward near the pink. I'm not going to clear that ward just yet. Since I have my sweeper, I want to check other areas around their map to make sure I clear out other wards. And in this case, I spot another ward in this bush, and I spot another ward in the pixel bush. Now that I've cleared most of their vision, I feel pretty safe to go up towards Baron Pit and keep on securing the vision for my team, especially since my team is also here now. After clearing this pink, we're going to try to kite back because the Singe wants to engage on us. Luckily for us, we get a TP from Urgot, and although I miss a hook, we do successfully disengage. Once again, note that even though my ward over the wall got cleared, we still immediately place two more wards here and here because we know how important it is to have vision over this wall, especially since I'm someone like Blitzcrank who can look for picks very easily. With my first pink, I'm gonna use my pink ward and put it in this bush right here. The reason I want to put it in this bush first is because this is a very common bush to ward as blue side if you're trying to face check into Baron. Since this path is especially dangerous, I would imagine that their support or any other player on the enemy team would try to ward this bush first before slowly moving up to check Baron. Therefore, I want a pink in here just to have constant denial of vision in this small choke point, which is also nice because I'm Blitzcrank. The next ward I'm going to leave is right here. The reason why I want to leave one ward here is because now that we have this entire side of Baron secured, the only other path where the enemy team can come to contest us is through this other choke point. And having one ward here should be sufficient vision for us to see if anyone's coming from our flank. Now that we've set up our vision, we're ready to just look for picks. I get a really easy hook on the Singe because of our vision, and we're going to pick him off immediately and continue to apply pressure on Baron. There's no need for us to start Baron at this current moment in time, simply because it's still slightly dangerous to do so with just one man down. Therefore, we're gonna just wait around and see how the enemy's positioning themselves. We see that Soraka's really scared right now. She's trying to cue that bush that I pinked, But I already moved my pink up here because I do want to make sure that they don't have any wards inside Baron Pit. With the ward I placed on this left here, I see that Talia was trying to get a flank and I get an easy hook on her. And we see Sejuani was trying to go over the wall for a Baron steal. Now that many members of the enemy team are dead, we're just going to chase the Sejuani down to make sure that they have no way to contest the Baron and get a possible steal. And we're going to get a pretty easy Baron for our team and continue to snowball and win this game. It was important to note that the enemy team only made that desperate move because 1, they were 1 man down, and 2, they have no wards in Baron since I moved my pink ward inside the Baron pit, eliminating any other possibility that they have wards that could see it. Therefore, they had to face check in some way, otherwise they know that losing Baron will certainly mean losing the game. The other nice thing about having a pink ward on the enemy team is that they do have a Twitch which does spot him, so I am able to get a flash hook on him for a pretty easy kill. Now let's revisit the start of this fight from the blue team perspective. You can see Soraka places that ward inside the bush here, but chooses not to kill it because she knows I'm in the area. She also chooses to leave 1 ward in the middle of the lane, which I think is generally a good ward to place because it allows you to see rotations a lot more easily. However, because I'm clearing all their vision and their entire map, they don't have any more wards in this bottom side of the map and in this top side of the map, as you can see. This is so scary for them. I'm sure many people have been in the situation where they're way too scared to go into the Baron pit because they don't have sufficient vision. And now that this last pink ward is gone, they really can't see us anymore. Now, if I were the enemy team, if I wanted to try to slowly build back the vision to get to Baron without having to face check, the first pink ward I were to place would be right here. Once again, from the red side perspective, red side always wants to have a ward over this wall to see the incoming blue team from this left side or this right side. So having a pink ward here to deny that vision is really important. It's also really hard for the red team to clear a pink ward that's placed all the way back here because it means that they have to walk up really far in, and that can put someone in a really bad position if they have to walk into this small corridor. With the huge lack of vision, you can definitely see that the enemy team felt really pressured to slowly come in. You can see that there's multiple pings on the Baron. They don't know if we started or not, or if they're looking for a pick, which is why they have to slowly come in to face check. And because of that, Singe does get hooked pretty much immediately. Now that Singe died, they use another one of their scrying orbs on the Baron, but luckily for us, we do have a pink, and we are able to clear it. And now they definitely don't have any more wards here, which means that they have to start walking in slowly. This is why I placed 1 ward over here, because I figured that the enemy team might try to flank from the left rather than the right. And because I did spot out the Talia with that ward, I am able to get another pick on her, and we're just gonna clean up the enemy team because they were forced to face check on their own. This is why vision's really important. It can very much influence people to behave in a certain way if they don't have sufficient vision to make the correct call. And so in this case, most enemy teams are forced to make the call to just face check blindly because they don't have any other choice. They either lose the Baron or they can try to die contesting a small % chance of getting the Baron, even though the odds are not super great. And had they had perhaps a sneaky ward behind the Baron pit or another ward that wasn't spotted by my pink, then they could maybe have better information on knowing not to face check. One ward I recommend that's always really hard for pink wards to spot is right here outside the Baron pit. This is good on both sides because most people tend to place their pink ward within this Baron pit, because if you don't put the pink ward within this Baron pit, you won't be able to spot out a control ward that's all the way back here. Therefore, most people tend to put the pink ward around the center of this Baron pit, and this pink ward can only see a little bit of area outside the Baron pit. Therefore, if you put a ward right over in this corner here, most people don't think about putting a pink ward in the middle of the river, and you can usually get away with being able to see enemy champions walking into the Baron pit with a ward right over here. Similarly, if I wanted this ward here, but I was afraid that this area would get pinked, another reasonable spot to put a ward is right over the wall here. If you put the ward close far enough to the left, you should be able to be out of range for any kind of pink ward inside this bush to see it. And likewise, if I'm blue side and I want to see the incoming red team walk into Baron without getting covered by this standard pink ward, you can always leave 1 ward further in the middle right over here, inside the Raptor pit, or over in this narrow corridor. Overall, the main takeaway points from the video is that 1, Having vision is super important for your team to be able to position correctly. At the dragon example, had I not placed sufficient vision around the dragon and the river, my team would not be able to kite really easily and be confident to push the enemy team into a choke point. And conversely, the enemy team was forced to move into that choke point because they did not have enough wards to see us approaching and positioning around the dragon. In this Baron example, you can see that pink wards are even a bigger deal coming into mid game, especially with champions who have excellent pick like Blitzcrank. Having one pink ward in this bush and having one pink ward near the Baron allowed us to completely secure Baron control and look for the picks we needed to take Baron safely and secure us to victory. So whenever you have the choice, you should always try to keep extra pink wards in your inventory, and never be afraid to use your pink wards liberally to make sure that you eliminate every possibility of the enemy team having vision that could possibly catch you guys out. In both examples, I was very willing to change where my pink wards were to make sure that I eliminated any chance that the enemy team had at spotting us out, and it definitely paid dividends in the long run. And I highly encourage you guys to try doing the same. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later.